Hello and welcome to Goodnight Wikipedia. So, this is my third attempt at making my first YouTube video for this channel, and this is how things are going to go tonight. So, my wife has chosen a topic for me to talk about, and my idea was to bring something educational to listen to as you fall asleep. Tonight, we're going to talk about Bigfoot. I have here pulled up in front of me the Wikipedia article all about Bigfoot. And before we dive into that, I would like to ask you so politely and calmly to hit that subscribe button just so we can get a jump start on being able to do this on a regular basis. Now, on with the Wikipedia article. Bigfoot, also commonly referred to as Sasquatch, is a large, hairy, mythical humanoid creature said to inhabit forests in North America, particularly in the Pacific Northwest. Bigfoot is featured in both American and Canadian folklore, and since the mid-20th century has become a cultural icon, permeating popular culture and becoming the subject of its own distinct subculture. Enthusiasts of Bigfoot, such as those within the pseudoscience of cryptozoology, have offered various forms of dubious evidence to support Bigfoot's existence, including anecdotal claims of sightings as well as supposed photographs, video and audio recordings, hair samples, and large casts of footprints. However, the evidence is a combination of folklore, misidentification, and hoax, and the creature is dismissed by scientists as not a real living animal. I call BS. Bigfoot is real. Folklorists trace the phenomenon of Bigfoot to a combination of factors and sources, including the European wild man figure, folktales, and indigenous cultures. Examples of similar folktales of wild, hair-covered humanoids exist throughout the world, such as the skunk ape of the southeastern United States, the Yalmas, Yeren, and Yeti in Asia, the Australian Yowie, and creatures in the mythologies of indigenous people. Wishful thinking, a cultural increase in environmental concerns, and overall societal awareness of the subject have been cited as additional factors. On to the description. Bigfoot is often described as a large, muscular, and bipedal human or ape-like creature covered in black, dark brown, or dark reddish hair. Anecdotal descriptions estimate a height of roughly 6 to 9 feet, with some descriptions having the creature standing as tall as 10 to 15. Some alleged observations describe Bigfoot as more human than ape, particularly in regard to the face. In 1971, multiple people in the Dalles, Oregon, filed a police report describing an overgrown ape, and one of the men claimed to have sighted the creature in the scope of his rifle but could not bring himself to shoot it because it looked more human than animal. Common descriptions include broad shoulders, no visible neck, and long arms, which many skeptics attribute to misidentification of a bear standing upright. Some alleged nighttime sightings have stated the creature's eyes glowed yellow or red. However, eyeshine is not present in humans or any other known great apes, and so proposed explanations for elevated observable eyeshine in the forest include owls, raccoons, or opossums perched in foliage or bears standing upright. Michael Rugg, the owner of the Bigfoot Discovery Museum, claims to have smelled Bigfoot, stating, "Imagine a skunk that had rolled around in dead animals and had hung around the garbage pits." Delightful. The enormous footprints for which the creature is named are claimed to be as large as 24 inches long and 8 inches wide. Some footprint casts have also contained claw marks, making it likely that they come from known animals such as bears, which have 5 toes and claws. Etymology and other names. Sasquatch. In 1929, Indian agent and teacher J.W. Burns, who lived and worked with the Citays Nation, then called the Chehalis First Nation, published a collection of stories titled Introducing BC's Hairy Giants, a collection of strange tales about British Columbia's wild men as told by those who say they have seen them. In Maclean's magazine, the stories offered various anecdotal reports of wild people, including an encounter a tribal member had with a hairy, wild woman who could speak the language of the Douglas First Nation. Burns coined the term Sasquatch, believed to be the anglicized version of Saskets, roughly translating to hairy man, in the Halkemilim language. Burns describes the Sasquatch as a tribe of hairy people whom they claim have always lived in the mountains, in tunnels and caves. Bigfoot. In 1958, Jerry Crew, bulldozer operator for a lodging company in Humboldt County, California, discovered a large 16-inch human-like footprint sunk deep within the mud in the Six Rivers National Forest. Upon informing his coworkers, many claimed to have seen similar tracks on previous job sites, as well as telling of odd incidents such as an oil drum weighing 450 pounds having been moved without explanation. The lodging company men soon began using the word Bigfoot to describe the apparent culprit. Crew and others initially believed someone was playing a prank on them. After observing more of these massive footprints, he contacted reporter Andrew Gonzoli of the Humboldt Times newspaper. Gonzoli interviewed lumber workers and wrote articles about the mysterious footprints, introducing the name Bigfoot in relation to the tracks and the local tales of large, hairy, wild men. A plaster cast was made of the footprints, and Crew appeared holding one of the casts on the front page of the newspaper on October 6, 1958. The story spread rapidly as Gonzoli began to receive correspondence from major media outlets, including the New York Times and Los Angeles Times. As a result, the term Bigfoot became widespread as a reference to an apparently large, unknown creature leaving massive footprints in Northern California. In 2002, the family of Jerry Crew's deceased co-worker Ray Wallace revealed a collection of large carved wooden feet stored in his basement. Bummer. They stated that Wallace had been secretly making the footprints and was responsible for the tracks discovered by Crew. Similarly, some have theorized that most photographs of oversized footprints in the wild could be hoaxes created by carved wooden feet. Wallace was inspired by another hoaxer, Rant Mullins, who revealed information about his hoaxes in 1982. In the 1930s in Toledo, Washington, Mullins and a group of other foresters carved pairs of large feet made of wood and used them to create footprints in the mud to scare huckleberry pickers in the Gifford Pinchot National Forest. The group would also claim to be responsible for hoaxing the alleged Ape Canyon incident in 1924. Mullins and the group of foresters began referring to themselves as the St. Helens Apes and would later have a cave dedicated to them. Wallace, also from Toledo, knew Mullins and stated he collaborated with him to obtain a pair of the large wooden feet and subsequently used them to create footprints on the 1958 construction site as a means to scare away potential thieves. Other historical uses of Bigfoot. In the 1930s, a Wyandot chief was nicknamed Bigfoot due to his significant size, strength, and large feet. Potawatomi Chief Momsuk, known as Chief Bigfoot, is today synonymous with the area of Walworth County, Wisconsin, and has a state park and school named for him. William A. Wallace, a famous 19th century Texas Ranger, was nicknamed Bigfoot due to his large feet and today has a town named for him, Bigfoot, Texas. Lakota leader Spotted Elk was also called Chief Bigfoot. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, at least 2 enormous marauding grizzly bears were widely noted in the press and each nicknamed Bigfoot. The first grizzly bear, called Bigfoot, was reportedly killed near Fresno, California in 1895 after killing sheep for 15 years. His weight was estimated at 2,000 pounds. The second one was active in Idaho in the 1890s and 1900s between the Snake and Salmon rivers, and supernatural powers were attributed to it. Regional and other names. Many regions throughout North America have different names for Bigfoot. In Canada, the name Sasquatch is widely used in addition to Bigfoot. According to Merriam-Webster, the use of Sasquatch in the English language is a synonym for Bigfoot and predates it by approximately 50 years. The United States uses both of these names, but also has numerous names and descriptions of the creatures depending on the region and area in which they are allegedly sighted. These include Alabama, White Thing, Alaska, Nantinak, Arizona, Mogollon Monster, Arkansas, Fook Monster, Delaware, Selbyville Swamp Monster, Florida, Skunk Ape, Georgia, Elkins Creek Beast, Illinois, Big Muddy Monster, Kentucky, Hillbilly Beast, Louisiana, Honey Island Swamp Monster, Michigan, Dewey Lake Monster, Mississippi, Chattawal Monster, Missouri, Momo the Monster, New York, Monster of Whitehall, Ohio, Grassman and Minerva Monster, Virginia, Wood Booger, West Virginia, Old Man of the Mountain. The term wood ape is also used by some as a means to deviate from the perceived mythical connotation surrounding the name Bigfoot. Other names include Bushman, Treeman, and Wildman. History. Folklore and early records. Ecologist Robert Pyle argues that most cultures have accounts of human-like giants in their folk history, expressing a need for some larger-than-life creature. Each language had its name for the creature featured in the local version of such legends. Many names mean something like wild man or hairy man, although other names describe common actions that it was said to perform, such as eating clams or shaking trees. European folklore traditionally had many instances of the wild man of the woods or wild people, often described as a naked creature covered in hair, with only the face, feet, and hands, and in some cases the knees, elbows, or breasts remaining bare. These European wild people ranged from human hermits to human-like monsters. Upon migrating to North America, myths of the wild people persisted, with documented sightings of wild people reported in what is now New York State and Pennsylvania. A 2007 paper titled Images of the Wild Man Outside and Inside Europe stated, "To be sure, the modern Sasquatch is largely the product of a European-derived culture, as possibly to an even greater extent is the Australian Yahoo. Accordingly, traces of the European wild man are discernible in both figures, yet the Sasquatch is partly rooted in Amerindian representations of hairy hominids. Even though the relationship between these, which are often described as small, and the giant Sasquatch of the popular Canadian and American imagination is hardly straightforward." That's from Gregory Forth. Many of the indigenous cultures across the North American continent include tales of mysterious hair-covered creatures living in the forest. And according to anthropologist David Daegling, these legends existed long before contemporary reports of the creature described as Bigfoot. These stories differed in their details regionally and between families in the same community and are particularly prevalent in the Pacific Northwest. Dr. John A. McClellan, retired professor of anthropology at the University of Arizona, states, "Legends of wild humanoid creatures are as old as human history and span the globe. Names and other details vary, but common traits of these undocumented animals are bipedalism, gigantic size, hair-covered bodies, and a potential to cause harm." A Native American tradition in the Pacific Northwest tells of a giant hair-covered ogre named Sonoqua, who steals children and food. This is likely the origin of the Sasquatch or Bigfoot legend. On the Toole River Indian Reservation, petroglyphs created by a tribe of Yokuts at a site called Painted Rock are alleged by Kathy Moskowitz-Strain, author of the 2008 book Giants, Cannibals, Monsters, Bigfoot and Native Culture, to depict a group of Bigfoots called the Family. The largest glyph is called Hairy Man, also known as Mayak Tatat, and they are estimated to be 1,000 years old. According to the Tulare County Board of Education in 1975, Bigfoot, the hairy man, was a creature that was like a great big giant with long shaggy hair. His long shaggy hair made him look like a big animal. He was good in a way because he ate the animals that might harm people, and Yokut's parents warned their children not to venture near the river at night or they may encounter the creature. 16th century Spanish explorers and Mexican settlers told tales of the Dark Watchers, large creatures alleged to stalk their camps at night. In the region that is now Mississippi, a Jesuit priest was living with the Natchez in 1721 and reported stories of hairy creatures in the forest, known to scream loudly and steal livestock. The folklore of the Cherokee includes tales of the Sul-Kalu, who were described as slant-eyed giants that resided in the Appalachian Mountains and is sometimes associated with Bigfoot. Members of the Lumi tell tales about creatures known as Seamquests. The stories are similar to each other in the general descriptions of Seamquests, but details differed among various family accounts concerning the creature's diet and activities. Some regional versions tell of more threatening creatures, the Sitiaya or Kui were a nocturnal race, and children were warned against saying the names so that the monsters would not come and carry them off to be killed. Oof. The Iroquois tell of an aggressive, hair-covered giant with rock-hard skin known as the Otneyarhe, or stone giant, more commonly referred to as the Gnosqua. In 1847, Paul Kane reported stories by the natives about Skookums, a race of cannibalistic wild men living on the peak of Mount St. Helens. U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt, in his 1893 book The Wilderness Hunter, writes of a story he was told by an elderly mountain man named Bauman, in which a foul-smelling bipedal creature ransacked his beaver trapping camp, stalked him, and later became hostile when it fatally broke his companion's neck. Roosevelt notes that Bauman appeared fearful while telling the story, but attributed the trapper's German ancestry to have potentially influenced him. The Alutiiq of the Kenai Peninsula in Alaska tell of the Nantinak, a Bigfoot-like creature. This folklore was featured in the Discovery Plus television series Alaskan Killer Bigfoot, which claims the Nantinak was responsible for the population decrease of Portlock in the 1940s. Less menacing versions have been recorded, such as one by Reverend Elkanah Walker in 1840. Walker was a Protestant missionary who recorded stories of giants among the natives living near Spokane, Washington. These giants were said to live on and around the peaks of the nearby mountains, stealing salmon from the fishermen's nets. Ape Canyon Incident. On July 16, 1924, an article in the Oregonian made national news when a story was published describing a conflict between a group of gold prospectors and a group of ape men in a gorge near Mount St. Helens. The prospectors reported encountering gorilla men near the remote cabin. One of the men, Fred Beck, indicated that he shot one of the creatures with a rifle. That night, they reported coming under attack by the creatures, who were said to have thrown large rocks at the cabin, damaging the roof and knocking Beck unconscious. The men fled the area the following morning. The U.S. Forest Service investigated the site of the alleged incident. The investigators found no compelling evidence of the event and concluded it was likely a fabrication. Stories of large, hair-covered bipedal ape men, or mountain devils, had been a persistent piece of folklore in the area for centuries prior to the alleged incident. Today, the area is known as Ape Canyon, in recognition of its status in Bigfoot lore. Patterson-Gimlin film. On October 20th, 1967, Bigfoot enthusiast Roger Patterson and his partner, Robert Bob Gimlin, were filming a Bigfoot docudrama in an area called Bluff Creek in the northern California. The pair claimed they came upon a Bigfoot and filmed the encounter. The 59.5-second-long video, dubbed the Patterson-Gimlin film, has become iconic in popular culture and Bigfoot-related history and lore. The PGF continues to be a highly scrutinized, analyzed, and debated subject. Academic experts from related fields have typically judged the film as providing no supportive data of any scientific value, with perhaps the most common proposed explanation being that it was a hoax. Proposed explanations. Various explanations have been suggested for sightings and to offer conjecture on what existing animal has been misidentified in supposed sightings of Bigfoot. Scientists typically attribute sightings to hoaxes or misidentifications of known animals and their tracks, particularly black bears. Misidentification. Bears. Scientists theorize that mistaken identification of American black bears as Bigfoot are a likely explanation for most reported sightings, particularly when observers view a subject from afar, are in dense foliage, or there are poor lighting conditions. Additionally, black bears have been observed and recorded walking upright, often as the result of an injury. While upright, adult black bears stand roughly 5 to 7 feet tall, and grizzly bears roughly 8 to 9 feet. According to data scientist Floy Foxon, more people report seeing Bigfoot in areas with documented black bear populations. Foxon concludes, if Bigfoot is there, it may be many bears. In areas with minimal or no known black bear populations, Foxon attributes alleged sightings to misidentification of other animals, including humans, among other possibilities. Some have proposed that sightings of Bigfoot may simply be people observing and misidentifying known great apes such as chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans that have escaped from captivity, for instance, from zoos or circuses, and exotic pets belonging to private owners. This explanation is often proposed in relation to the skunk ape, as some scientists argue the humid subtropical climate of the southeastern United States could potentially support a population of escaped apes. Humans. Humans have been mistaken for Bigfoot, with some incidents leading to injuries. In 2013, a 20-year-old man in Oklahoma was arrested after he told law enforcement he accidentally shot his friend in the back while their group was allegedly hunting for Bigfoot. In 2017, a shamanist wearing clothing made of animal furs was vacationing in a North Carolina desert when local reports of alleged Bigfoot sightings flooded in. The Greenville Police Department issued a public notice not to shoot Bigfoot for fear of mistakenly injuring or killing someone in a fur suit. In 2018, a person was shot at multiple times by a hunter near Helena, Montana, who claimed he mistook him for a Bigfoot. Additionally, some have suggested feral humans or hermits living in the wilderness as being another explanation for alleged Bigfoot sightings. One story, The Wild Man of Navidad, tells of a wild ape man who roamed the wilderness of eastern Texas in the mid-19th century, stealing food and goods from residents. A search party allegedly captured an escaped African slave linked to the story. During the 1980s, several psychologically damaged American Vietnam veterans were stated by the state of Washington's Veterans Affairs Director, Randy Fisher, to have been living on remote wooded areas of the state. Pareidolia. Some have proposed that pareidolia may explain Bigfoot sightings, specifically the tendency to observe human-like faces and figures within the natural environment. Photos and videos of poor quality alleged to depict Bigfoots are often attributed to this phenomenon and commonly referred to as blob squatch. Misidentified vocalizations. The majority of mainstream scientists maintain that the source of the sounds often attributed to Bigfoot are either hoaxes, anthropomorphization, or likely misidentified and pronounced by known animals, such as owl, wolf, coyote, and fox. Hoaxes. Both Bigfoot believers and non-believers agree that many reported sightings are hoaxes. Gigantopithecus. Bigfoot proponents Grover Krantz and Jeffrey H. Bourne both believe that Bigfoot could be a relict population of the extinct Southeast Asian ape species Gigantopithecus blacki. According to Bourne, G. blacki may have followed the many other species of animals that migrated across the Bering Land Bridge to the Americas. To date, no Gigantopithecus fossils have been found in the Americas. In Asia, the only recovered fossils have been of mandibles and teeth, leaving uncertainty about G. blacki's locomotion. Krantz has argued that G. blacki could have been bipedal based on his extrapolation from the shape of its mandible. However, the relevant part of the mandible is not present in any fossils. The consensus view is that G. blacki was quadrupedal, as well as its enormous mass would have made it difficult for it to adopt a bipedal gait. Anthropologist Matt Cartmill criticizes the G. blacki hypothesis. The trouble with this account is that Gigantopithecus was not a hominin and maybe not even a crown group hominoid. Yet the physical evidence implies that Bigfoot is an upright biped with buttocks and a long, stout, permanently abducted hallux. These are hominin autapomorphies not found in other animals or other bipeds. It seems unlikely that Gigantopithecus would have evolved these uniquely hominin traits in parallel. Paleoanthropologist Bernard G. Campbell writes that Gigantopithecus is in fact extinct and has been questioned by those who believe it survives as the Yeti of the Himalayas and the Sasquatch of the Northwest American coast. But the evidence for these creatures is not convincing. Extinct hominidae. Primatologist John R. Napier and anthropologist Gordon Strassenberg have suggested a species of Paranthropus as a possible candidate for Bigfoot's identity, such as Paranthropus robustus with its gorilla-like crested skull and bipedal gait. Michael Rugg of the Bigfoot Discovery Museum presented a comparison between human Gigantopithecus and Meganthropus skulls, reconstructions made by Grover Krantz in episodes 131 and 132 of the Bigfoot Discovery Museum show. Bigfoot enthusiasts think Bigfoot may be the missing link between apes and humans have promoted the idea that Bigfoot is a descendant of Gigantopithecus blacki, but that ape derived from orangutans around 12 million years ago and is not related to humans. Some suggest Neanderthal, Homo erectus, or Homo heidelbergensis to be the creature, but like all other great apes, no remains of any of those species have been found in the Americas. Scientific view. Expert consensus is that allegations of the existence of Bigfoot are not credible. Belief in the existence of such a large ape-like creature is more often attributed to hoaxes, confusion, or delusion rather than to sightings of a genuine creature. In a 1996 USA Today article, Washington State zoologist John Crane said, "There is no such thing as Bigfoot. No data other than material that's already clearly been fabricated has ever been presented." The author of one review article states that, in their opinion, it is impossible even to consider cryptozoology a science if it continues to consider Bigfoot seriously. As with other similar beings, climate and food supply issues would make such a creature's survival in reported habitats unlikely. Bigfoot is alleged to live in regions unusual for a large non-human primate, i.e. temperate latitudes in the northern hemisphere. All recognized non-human apes are found in the tropics of Africa and Asia. Great apes have not been found in the fossil record in the Americas, and no Bigfoot remains are known to have been found. Philip Stevens, a cultural anthropologist at the University of Buffalo, summarized the scientific consensus as follows. It defies all logic that there is a population of these things sufficient to keep them going. What it takes to maintain any species, especially a long-lived species, is having a breeding population. That requires a substantial number spread out over a fairly wide area where they can find sufficient food and shelter to keep hidden from all investigators. In the 1970s, when Bigfoot experts were frequently given high-profile media coverage, McLeod writes that the scientific community generally avoided lending credence to such fringe theories by refusing even to debate them. Primatologist Jane Goodall was asked for her personal opinion of Bigfoot in a 2002 interview on National Public Radio's Science Friday. Goodall responded saying, "Well, now you will be amazed when I tell you that I'm sure that they exist." She later added, "Well, I'm a romantic, so I always wanted them to exist." And, of course, the big criticism of all this is, where is the body? Why isn't there a body? I can't answer that. And maybe they don't exist, but I want them to. In 2012, when asked again by the Huffington Post, Goodall said, "I'm fascinated and would actually love them to exist," adding, Of course, it's strange that there has never been a single authentic ride or hair of the Bigfoot, but I've read all the accounts. Paleontologist and author Darren Naish states in a 2016 article for Scientific American that if Bigfoot existed, an abundance of evidence would also exist that cannot be found anywhere today, making the existence of such a creature exceedingly unlikely. Naish summarizes the evidence for Bigfoot that would exist if the creature itself existed. If Bigfoot existed, so would consistent reports of uniform vocalizations throughout North America, as can be identified for any existing large animal in the region, rather than the scattered and widely varied Bigfoot sounds haphazardly reported. If Bigfoot existed, so would many tracks that would be easy for experts to find, just as they easily find tracks in other rare megafauna in North America, rather than a complete lack of such tracks alongside tracks that experts agree are fraudulent. Finally, if Bigfoot existed, an abundance of Bigfoot DNA would already have been found. Again, as it has been found for similar animals instead of the current state of affairs, where there is no confirmed DNA for such a creature whatsoever. Researchers Ivan T. Sanderson and Bernard Heuvelmans, founders of the study of cryptozoology, spent parts of their career searching for Bigfoot. Later, scientists who researched the topic included Jarvis, Charleston Coon, George Allen Agagino, and William Charles Osmond Hill, though they later stopped their research due to lack of evidence for the alleged creature. John Napier asserts that the scientific community's attitude towards Bigfoot stems primarily from insufficient evidence. Other scientists who have shown varying degrees of interest in the creature are Grover Krantz, Jeffrey Meldrum, John Bindernagel, David G. Daegling, George Schaller, Russell Mittermeier, Darius Swindler, Esteban Sarmiento, and Mireya Mayor. Formal studies. One study was conducted by John Napier and published in his book, Bigfoot, the Yeti, and Sasquatch in Myth and Reality in 1973. Napier wrote that if a conclusion is to be reached based on scant, extant, hard evidence, science must declare Bigfoot does not exist. However, he found it difficult to entirely reject thousands of alleged tracks scattered over 125,000 square miles, or to dismiss all the many hundreds of eyewitness accounts. Napier concluded, "I am convinced that Sasquatch exists, but whether it is all it is cracked up to be is another matter altogether. There must be something in Northwest America that needs explaining, and that something leaves man-like footprints." In 1974, the National Wildlife Federation funded a field study seeking Bigfoot evidence. No formal Federation members were involved, and the study made no notable discoveries. Also, in 1974, the now defunct North American Wildlife Research Team constructed a Bigfoot trap in the Rogue River Siskiyou National Forest. The trap was baited with animal carcasses and did manage to capture multiple bears, but no Bigfoot. Upkeep of the trap ended in the early 1980s, but in 2006, the United States Forest Service repaired the trap, which today is a tourist destination along the Collings Mountain hiking trail. Beginning in the late 1970s, physical anthropologist Grover Krantz published several articles and had 4 book-length treatments of Bigfoot. However, his work was found to contain multiple significant failings, including falling for hoaxes. A study published in the Journal of Biogeography in 2009 by J.D. Lozer et al. Used ecological niche modeling on reported sightings of Bigfoot, using their locations to infer preferred ecological parameters. They found a very close match with the ecological parameters of the American black bear. They also note that an upright bear looks much like a Bigfoot's purported appearance and consider it highly improbable that two species should have very similar ecological preferences, concluding that Bigfoot sightings, if not outright fabricated, are likely misidentified sightings of black bears. In the first systemic genetic analysis of 30 hair samples that were suspected to be from Bigfoot-like creatures, only one was found to be of primate origin and was identified as human. A joint study by the University of Oxford and Lausanne's Cantonal Museum of Zoology and published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B in 2014, the team used a previously published cleaning method to remove all surface contamination and the ribosomal mitochondrial DNA 12S fragment of the sample. The sample was sequenced and then compared to GenBank to identify the species origin. The samples submitted were from different parts of the world, including the US, Russia, the Himalayas, and Sumatra. Other than one sample of human origin, all but two are from common animals. Black and brown bears accounted for most of the samples. Other animals include cow, horse, dog, wolf, coyote, sheep, goat, deer, raccoon, porcupine, and tapir. The last two samples were thought to match a fossilized genetic sample of a 40,000-year-old polar bear of the Pleistocene epoch. A second test identified that these hairs as being from a rare type of brown bear. In 2019, the FBI declassified an analysis it conducted on alleged Bigfoot hairs in 1976. Bigfoot researcher Peter Byrne sent the FBI 15 hairs attached to a small skin fragment and asked if the Bureau could assist him in identifying it. J. Cochran Jr., Assistant Director of the FBI Scientific and Technical Services Division, responded in 1977 that the hairs were of deer family origin. We've got two sections left. Claims. Claims about the origins and characteristics of Bigfoot vary. Thomas Seward, a Bigfoot researcher and member of the Kwakwaka'wakwa tribe, claims they're just the other tribe. They're just big, hairy humans with nocturnal vision that choose not to have weapons or fire or permanent shelters. The subject of Bigfoot has also crossed over with other paranormal claims, including that Bigfoot, extraterrestrials, and UFOs are related to that Bigfoot, or that Bigfoot are psychic, can shapeshift, are able to cross into different dimensions, or are completely supernatural in origin. Some have claimed that Bigfoot have telepathic abilities and are able to communicate with humans using mind speak. Additionally, claims regarding Bigfoot have been associated with conspiracy theories, including a government cover-up. There have also been claims that Bigfoot is responsible for the disappearances of people in the wilderness, such as the 1969 disappearance of Dennis Martin in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The 2025 limited series Bigfoot Took Her explores the 1987 disappearance of teenager Teresa Beer in the Sierra National Forest and the event's connection to Bigfoot. Additionally, there have been claims that Bigfoot has been responsible for vehicle accidents, vandalizing property, delaying construction, and killing people. In 2022, a man from Oklahoma claimed he killed his friend because he believed the friend had summoned Bigfoot and that he was going to be sacrificed to the creature. Most anecdotal accounts of Bigfoot encounters result in the creatures hiding or fleeing from people. The 2021 Hulu documentary series Sasquatch describes marijuana farmers telling stories of Bigfoots harassing and killing people within the Emerald Triangle region in the 1970s through the 1990s, and specifically the alleged murder of 3 migrant workers in 1993. Investigative journalist David Holthouse attributes the stories to illegal drug operations using the local Bigfoot lore to scare away the competition, specifically superstitious immigrants, and that the high rate of murder and missing persons in the area is due to human actions. Sightings. According to Live Science, there have been over 10,000 reported Bigfoot sightings in the continental United States. About 1/3 of all claims of Bigfoot sightings are located in the Pacific Northwest, with the remaining reports spreading through the rest of North America. Most reports are considered mistakes or hoaxes, even by those researchers who claim Bigfoot exists. Sightings predominantly occur in the northwestern region of the Washington state, Oregon, Northern California, and British Columbia. According to data collected from the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization's BFRO Bigfoot Sightings Database in 2019, Washington has over 2,000 reported sightings, California over 1,600, Pennsylvania over 1,300, New York and Oregon over 1,000, and Texas has just over 800. The debate over the legitimacy of Bigfoot sightings has reached a peak in the 1970s, and Bigfoot has been regarded as the first widely popularized example of pseudoscience in American culture. Reports of alleged Bigfoot sightings are often featured in news stories throughout the U.S. In early March of 2026, a series of alleged Bigfoot sightings reported in Northeast Ohio garnered media attention. One of these alleged sightings involved the witnesses reporting it to the Stark County, Ohio Sheriff's Office, who reported no findings apart from a musky ammonia smell. According to Jeremiah Byron, host of the Bigfoot Society podcast, a cluster of alleged and reported sightings in this area occurred in the 1970s, giving rise to the folklore of the Minerva monster. Alleged behavior. Some Bigfoot researchers allege that the Bigfoot throws rocks as territorial displays and for communication. Other alleged behaviors include audible blows struck against trees or wood knocking, further alleged to be communicative. Skeptics argue that these behaviors are easily hoaxed. Additionally, structures of broken and twisted foliage seemingly placed in specific areas have been attributed by some to Bigfoot behavior. In some reports, lodgepole pine and other small trees have been observed bent, uprooted, or stacked in patterns such as weaved and crisscrossed, leading some to theorize that they are potential territorial markings. Some instances have also included entire deer skeletons being suspended high in trees. Some researchers and enthusiasts believe Bigfoot construct teepee-like structures out of dead trees and foliage. In Washington state, a team of amateur Bigfoot researchers called the Olympic Project claimed to have discovered a collection of nests. The group brought in primatologists to study them, with the conclusion being that they appear to have been created by a primate. Jeremiah Byron, host of the Bigfoot Society podcast, believes Bigfoot are omnivores, stating they eat both plants and meat. I've seen accounts that they eat everything from berries, leaves, nuts, and fruit to salmon, rabbit, elk, and bear. Ronnie LeBlanc, host of Expedition Bigfoot on the Travel Channel, indicated he has heard anecdotal reports of Bigfoot allegedly hunting and consuming deer. In the 2001 nature documentary Great North, a dark bipedal figure was captured on film while the filmmakers were recording a herd of caribou. The footage has sparked debate, as some Bigfoot researchers claim the figure is a Bigfoot stalking the caribou. In 2016, Bigfoot researcher Thinker Thunker released a YouTube video in which he interviewed one of the Great North directors, William Reeve, who claims it could not have been a human but was possibly a bear, although he and his crew denied seeing any bears while filming. Some Bigfoot researchers have reported the creatures moving or taking possession of intentional gifts left by humans, such as food and jewelry. and leaving them in their places, such as rocks and twigs. Many alleged sightings are reported to occur at night, leading some cryptozoologists to hypothesize that Bigfoot may possess nocturnal tendencies. However, experts find such behavior untenable in a supposed ape or human-like creature, as all known apes, including humans, are diurnal, with only lesser primates exhibiting nocturnally. Most anecdotal sightings of Bigfoot describe the creatures allegedly observed as solitary, although some reports have described groups being allegedly observed together. Lots of allegeds. Alleged vocalizations, such as howls, screams, moans, grunts, whistles, and even a form of supposed language, have been reported and allegedly recorded. In 1994, Bigfoot researcher Matt Moneymaker recorded audio in Columbiana County, Ohio, that the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization claims is a Bigfoot producing a moaning howl. Some of these alleged vocalization recordings have been analyzed by individuals such as retired U.S. Navy cryptozoologic linguist Scott Nelson. He analyzed audio recordings from the early 70s and said to be recorded in the Sierra Nevada mountains dubbed the Sierra Sounds, and stated, "It is definitely a language. It is definitely not human in origin, and it could not have been faked." Leigh Stroud has spoken of a strange vocalization he heard in the wilderness while filming Survivor Man, that he stated sounded primate in origin. There have also been claims that Bigfoot can imitate the sounds of other animals. A number of anecdotal reports of Bigfoot encounters have resulted in witnesses claiming to be disoriented, dizzy, and anxious. Some Bigfoot researchers, such as paranormal author Nick Redfern, have proposed that Bigfoot may produce infrasound. Encounters. According to a Skawaluk First Nation story, Jeannie Chapman and her 3 children reported seeing and fleeing from a gigantic hair-covered creature on their property near Ruby Creek, British Columbia in 1941. Her husband George reported that he returned home to investigate and found enormous human-like footprints and damage to the woodshed. The family further reported the creature returned nightly for 1 week. Fearful, they moved away permanently. In Fouke, Arkansas, in 1971, a family reported that a large, hair-covered creature startled a woman after reaching through a window. This alleged incident caused hysteria in the Fouke area and inspired the horror movie The Legend of Boggy Creek. The report was later deemed a hoax. In 1974, the New York Times presented the dubious tale of Albert Ostman, a Canadian prospector who stated that he was kidnapped and held captive by a family of Bigfoot for 6 days in 1924. In 1994, former U.S. Forest Service Ranger Paul Freeman, a Bigfoot researcher, videotaped an alleged Bigfoot he reportedly encountered in the Blue Mountains in Oregon. The tape, often referred to as the Freeman footage, continues to be scrutinized and its authenticity debated. Freeman had previously gained media recognition in the 80s for documenting alleged Bigfoot tracks, claiming they possessed dermal ridges. On May 26, 1996, Lori Plate, who was on a camping trip near the Washington state-Canada border, videotaped a dark subject she reported encountering running across a field and claimed it was Bigfoot. The film, dubbed the Memorial Day Bigfoot footage, is often depicted in Bigfoot-related media, most notably the 2003 documentary Sasquatch: Legend Meets Science. In his research, Daniel Perez of the Skeptical Inquirer concluded that the footage was likely a hoax perpetuated by a human in a gorilla costume. In May 2012, Bigfoot researcher Stacy Brown claimed he and his father encountered a Bigfoot in the Torreya State Park in Florida and recorded it on a forward-looking infrared camera. In 2018, Bigfoot researcher Claudia Ackley garnered international attention after filing a lawsuit with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife for failing to acknowledge the existence of Bigfoot. Ackley claimed to have encountered and filmed a Bigfoot in the San Bernardino Mountains in 2017, describing what she saw as a Neanderthal man with a lot of hair. Ackley contacted emergency services as well as the CDFW. A state investigator concluded that she encountered a bear. Until her death in 2023, Ackley also ran an online support group for individuals claiming to experience psychological trauma as a result of alleged Bigfoot encounters. In October 2023, a woman named Shannon Parker uploaded a video of an alleged Bigfoot to Facebook. The footage went viral on social media and was shared via various news publications. Shannon Parker reported she and others observed the subject while riding a train on the Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad in the San Juan Mountains in Colorado. The authenticity of the video was debated across social media. Skeptics on Reddit speculated it was a publicity hoax perpetuated by an RV company located in the area, Sasquatch Expedition Campers. The company denied the allegations. Skeptics argue that many of these alleged encounters are easily hoaxed and the result of misidentification or outright fabrication. In popular culture, Bigfoot has a demonstrable impact in popular culture and has been compared to Michael Jordan as a cultural icon. In 2018, Smithsonian Magazine declared interest in the existence of the creature is at an all-time high. A poll in 2020 suggested that about 1 in 10 American adults believe Bigfoot to be a real living creature. According to a May 2023 data study, the terms Bigfoot and Sasquatch are input via internet search engines over 200,000 times annually in the United States and over 660,000 times worldwide. In 2025, the Unicode Consortium announced a Bigfoot emoji referred to as hairy creature. Bigfoot was featured on the personal patch of Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen's spacesuit during the 2026 Artemis II mission, reflecting the trait of honesty as part of the teachings of the Seven Grandfathers. The creature has inspired the naming of a medical company, music festival, amusement park ride, monster truck, and a Marvel comic superhero. Some commentators have been critical of Bigfoot's rise to fame, arguing that the appearance of the creature in cartoons, reality shows, and advertisements trivialize the potential validity of serious scientific research into their supposed existence. Others propose that society's fascination with the concept of Bigfoot stems from human interest in mystery, the paranormal, and loneliness. In a 2022 article discussing recent Bigfoot sightings, journalist John Kalman of the Chicago Tribune states, as UFOs have gained newfound respect, becoming the subject of a Pentagon investigative panel, the alleged Bigfoot sighting is a reminder that other paranormal phenomena are still out there, exciting true believers and amusing skeptics. In the Pacific Northwest, Bigfoot and its likeness is symbolic with the Pacific Northwest and its culture, including the Cascadia movement. Sasquatch Provincial Park in British Columbia is named for the creature. Approximately 88 miles of the California State Route 96 highway is designated the Bigfoot Scenic Byway, named for the region's association with Bigfoot sightings and folklore, including the passing through the town of Willow Creek by the Bluff Creek Historic Trail, near where the Patterson Gremlin film was made. All right, now to my lovely viewers, we are going on an hour For my first video and the time of night that I'm doing this recording, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up our story about Bigfoot right here. Hopefully I get a little bit more adept at this. I'm used to talking a lot, but this is my first time doing it in this setting. And I plan to be a little more well prepared going into the next installment. So, for anybody that's made it this far, if you haven't passed out already, go ahead and put whatever you'd like to listen to me talk about next. I'm going to pull up a Wikipedia article and read right on through it for you guys. I really appreciate your time and staying until the end. Please hit that subscribe button, and sweet dreams and good night, Wikipedia.